So what's up today? So I'm basically redoing my Introduction to Computer Graphics Blender tutorial, which I unfortunately have missed due to a cold, and as the actual lecture time is already over at our University of Klagenfurt, I'll do that on the Twitch stream and record it and put it up for you to see it later. I have to do it before Christmas because the context is that you, as the students, I hope some of the students are here already, I have to do a Blender scene. That's a practical assignment in addition to the programming stuff, so that you understand the artists. And to get you a quick start, I'll just show you how Blender works. So just a short disclaimer, this is a lecture of Game Studies and Engineering, a master program at the University of Klagenfurt. And this lecture is part of Introduction to Computer Graphics, an interdisciplinary lecture on computer graphics, including a little bit of programming, a little bit of how to work in 3D, and a little bit of what do actual artists do with 3D stuff. So I'm also not an artist, I'm a programmer, so this is mostly programming art. If you don't like my art, just upload something better. That would be awesome. Well, of course, you are invited to give me tips how to make everything nicer. So I would like that, to do it nicer. Anyway, let's start. What is Blender? Blender is an open source program which gives us the opportunity to do everything we want in 3D. It's more like a Swiss Army knife, which can do everything, but it's not good for all things, but it's good for many things, and that includes developing stuff for games. Okay, you can download it at blender.org. It's completely free. It's currently in version 4.3.1, I think, but 4.3 is the major version, and it's actually quite usable as it is. Not like when I started. Is it relevant? Yeah, it is. So I talk to people from game industry and they say that Blender is the de facto standard, especially for younger people when they enter the industry. So the scope of the final project, just to remind you, is you should model 3 objects, for instance by extrusion or sculpting or whatever, or goopballs. Goopballs are also cool, but I have to do a second lecture on that. Then you should add materials, for instance textures or shaders or basic materials. You should populate a scene with your object and maybe with imported objects. You can use, of course, the objects from Kenny. You should light the scene and render a picture and an animation. So mandatory constraints are, you have to use Blender, so no Maya or something like that. You have to go for low poly style so that it's comparable. And you have to use 3 or more lights. And for the renderer, we stick to Eevee. Let's use Eevee. I know there are downsides to Eevee, but we're going to use Eevee. Keep it simple, pick a simple theme, use and reference tutorials. So there is a final project report where you can basically put in all the tutorials you used. That's a good practice to thank the people that actually did the work of streaming stuff, showing you stuff. So that's actually pretty awesome. Okay, just checking here. Oh, there are only 2 people left in the audience, so not much. So everybody, my greetings go out to the people who watch the recording. Nice. Example themes would be low poly trees making up a forest, Lego bricks of different color, low poly car repair shop, low poly room with interior design, and so on. So that would be 3 crates on a low poly landscape. I mean, it's just a plane and the camera movement. That's basically enough. Okay, goal for today. First part, model a crate with Blender. That's actually the second part on a temporal basis. Second part is know your way around to create your own stuff. So that's actually the first part because we want to actually learn something about Blender. That's very important. Yeah, that would be something like the crate you can model at the end of this lecture. And yeah, there's a recording from the last years here. I'll upload the current recording with Blender 4.3, of course, after the lecture. There are many references and tutorials. The Blender fundamentals are old. I don't recommend them right now because they are, I think, for Blender version 2.8 and now we have 4.3. But Blender Guru has a new beginner tutorial, which is awesome, the last in the list. Blender Guru is very well known to be the guru of Blender, like his name says. And there are Blender shortcuts which are extremely valuable. So if you didn't get a keyboard with a numpad on your computer, then try to grab a keyboard from somebody or from somewhere that has a numpad. That makes working with Blender a lot easier. So what is Blender? There are these first steps with Blender. I'll basically skip it. Blender is a tool for 3D modeling, texturing, painting, and so on. It can do many things, including video cutting, post-processing, and so on and so on. So a lot of things. Let's skip that video. Alternatives are Autodesk Maya, Autodesk 3ds Max, Pixellogic, ZBrush, Substance Painter, and many, many more. For many of those, you can get free trials or even lengthy trials if you upload your student ID. I think that's the case with Autodesk. You can try it out, but as I said, in the game industry, Blender has a certain reputation, and also Blender mimics, of course, those tools. So if you get your way around Blender, then it's easier to get into the other tools too. So learn one tool, then like with programming language, if you know one language, the second one is easier to learn, the third one is even more easier to learn, and so on and so on. Okay, so what does it look like? So that would be the UI of Blender, and I can basically switch to the Blender view here. We have the scene overview in the center, which is here. And in the scene, you have the startup splash, and you see the our classical friend, the cube. So let's put away the splash screen. There's the cube, it's already selected. We see the scene overview in the center. We see the scene collection to the right. We have a lot of tabs here, which give us properties, like the render properties, the output, and so on. There are a lot of things we can actually use, like the materials, which would be here, or of course the properties, which we have. Then there are two important things, and by the way, I installed the screencast keys. So if I don't hit, I have to actually enable them. If I hit N, then you'll see it in the left lower corner, and just increase the font size. And I can turn on with N the side panel. That would be the properties here. And there you can, for instance, take a look at the item properties, which would be the location, the rotation, and the scale. So if I want to set it up 1 meter above, then I put it on 1 meter, and then it moves the cube, or -10. Then the cube is just very much under the ground. You can set it back to 0. What we also can do is we can reset all to default value, and then we're safe. Same goes here. If I rotate stuff, I can rotate it, say, by 33 degrees, and I can actually reset to default. The other thing are the tools, which I can turn on and off here. So there are tools which are, for instance, moving, rotating, scaling, and general transform, which are extremely important, but we'll come to that. Up here, you can see we can change between different editor types. So we are now in layouting, but we can go into modeling or even sculpting. We'll not do much there. Also not for UV editing, but we'll use the shading thingy and maybe go for the animation thingy today. So shading is important, layout is important, and we could use modeling, but I don't use it right now because I can use shortcuts. Okay, so you can open and close new areas. For instance, I can have this area here, up and down. It's right click when you're here, then you can remove it by joining down, or you can join up. You can split it, for instance, vertically, and then add whatever shader editor here. And then you have 2 more of those. Again, you can join right, for instance, and remove the animation panel for the layouting if you want to, but I'll just leave it here because it's the standard view. Just checking back. No, chat is very silent. It's a very silent chat with 2 people. Yeah, it's already a time where no lectures take place, so in that sense, I'm okay with a silent chat. Okay, so we had changing editor, we had basically everything. Yeah, I like that. So what else is there? For navigation and viewing, we can use the mouse and we can use the numpad. So that's the whole thing. So we can see in 3D views the axis right up there, and that would be around here. And we can use them to move everything around. We can click on them, so we see along the axis, minus X, we can see along Z, and so on. We can switch to the camera view here and switch back to this one here. The whole thing is that we can also do that with the numpad, so we can see it from the front by hitting numpad 1. We can see it from the side by hitting numpad 3. We can see it from the top hitting numpad 7. And the very important thing is 0 to get with the camera. We have the focus point. Wait, that's the wrong one. We can focus on an object here with numpad comma. And we can actually switch to orthographic view by hitting 5. So perspective view is the standard view, orthographic view looks like that. So that's already pretty cool. With the mouse, we can basically use the middle mouse button to orbit around the whole thing. We can pan with Shift, and we can zoom in and zoom out with either the scroll wheel or Control and the middle mouse button. Oh, it actually doesn't show my mouse. Why doesn't it show my mouse? Wait, maybe I can show mouse events. Yes. Now, yeah, now it shows the mouse. Hold status. Event history plus hold status. That's what I want. Okay. Put it away with N. What we also often need is if we're here and we say, oh my God, that looks so much better, maybe under the light. That looks so much better here, then we can use view, align active camera to view. And that's where we put our camera now. So here you can see the camera. And when we find a nice position, then yeah, that's actually pretty cool. We can also walk and fly in here. So there are movement options. View, navigation, fly navigation. So we can fly around here with WASD. And I think we can also go up and down. Yes. Whoa, that makes me nervous. So we are back, and there is a walk navigation too. Where's the walk navigation? Here, down here. So we can look around, and then with WASD we can go there. It's like in Doom. Okay, clicking and exits the walking and flying navigation. You can fool around with that. It's pretty cool if you know your way around here. I'll just focus on the object again, and we're back to normal. We can also look through the camera if we want. Okay. I need a third monitor. We hear you. That's awesome. Thank you very much. Now I can hear you too. So the audience is back. I like it. Yeah, so that is a very awesome slide. There's so much information on it. I'll just remove it by going back to Blender and just showing you what I actually want to show you with the whole thing. So we can select objects with the mouse. Okay, zooming out, there is the light and there is the cube. There's the camera actually, we're looking through the camera. You can see on the right that this is also very much selected like that. So if I select the cube, it's here. If I select the light, it's selected here, and I select the camera, it's here. If you don't find your object, you can also select it here. That also works. Holding Shift selects two things. Okay, so two things are selected, or three things. And what you can also do is you can use B for box select. Everything inside the box is selected. In this case, it's the camera. Oh, the light is too selected. Oh, it selects the light too. Okay. Now the light is not selected. And we can use C, circle select. We just paint stuff we want to select. It doesn't like me. Why doesn't it like me? See? Do I have to paint it completely? Yeah, obviously. Make it bigger. And I think Control or something or Alt removes it then, but I'm not sure. No, maybe not. Shift removes it. Okay. And you have to hit the origin. That's the important thing, the origin. Yes, you can basically paint around it. Okay, so right mouse click exits this circle select. I'll just select the box here. So there are 3 basic shortcuts which you use. S for scale, scale, up and down with the mouse. If you do not like the current scale, you can basically go back with hitting the right mouse button. Okay, scale it up, mouse button right, and it goes back. Scale it up, mouse button left, and it stays there. How to get it back? For instance, here with this one, just reset, and we're back. Okay, so that would be scale. Grab means move, and we can move it around. Okay, snapping back. So that moves freely in a plane with a normal that looks into the camera we are viewing through right now. So that makes actually our top-down look very interesting. I think it was 7, yes. So if we want to move it just in the plane XY, we can go there and move it there and put it, for instance, here. We want to move it up to sit on the floor, we can move it here. There is of course snapping somewhere. Snap, snap, that's the snapping, yes. Snap to grid, and we can actually snap it to the grid, so then that should actually work out. There are several options. You can snap it to other faces and so on and so on. So that helps with arranging the objects. Okay, let's go back here. That would be grab, and of course we can rotate stuff. And the same here, it rotates around the axis that just sticks out between our eyes here. If we move it, we rotate it around Z, then we can move to top and then rotate it here a little bit and look through a camera, and it's rotated a little bit. Awesome. Very good. Of course, you can, I just reset this. You can also do that numerically and restrict it to axis. For instance, if I want to scale just along Y, then I hit S and Y, and then I scale it just along Y. And if I then want to rotate it along X, R and X, and I can rotate it along X. If I then want to move it in Z, then I can put it like that. So that's the whole idea. It also pretty much works with the camera. So G and C would move the camera up and down. And there's a very cool thing about the camera, because we can actually hit G double Z, and then we can move the camera in and out because it switches to the local Z axis. So first C would restrict it to the global Z axis, to the world Z axis, and second Z would put it down to the local Z axis. Okay, it's also this one here. G and C moves it up. G and CC moves it along the model Z axis in the model space. Just checking back. Oh no, chat. Chat is very silent today. Silent chat. Anyway. Also G and XX moves the camera left and right. G and YY would move the camera up and down, like GZ. Yes. What else can we do? If I want to move it in the plane, as I said, you can look at it from the top and then move the thing with grab. That is possible. But what you also can do is you can grab it and hit Shift C, and then it's restricted to the plane that is not involving Z. So that's the cool idea. Backspace, 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 and we're back to our cube. So, what else? Trying to replicate everything in blonde and so not die. Yes. Okay, that makes it actually quite Quite challenging, but yeah, it's a good challenge. I wish you the best of luck. But now I have a very easy slide for you actually. Here we have adding and deleting stuff. So if you want more than a cube, which is quite a lot, having more than a cube is quite a lot. You can add stuff with Shift A, or actually the add command, and you can delete it again with X and confirm it with Enter. Okay, let's try that. We can delete the cube, X and Enter, and we can add objects, for instance, a new cube. Let's add another cube and then move it along C and just stack up with Shift A, another cube. And then we have 2 cubes, and now we can move this one to 2 meters, maybe 2.2, and this one is at 2. And then we can basically add on top of that, for instance, sphere on, let's say, 4.4. No, that's the rotation. We can actually grab, yeah, something like that, 4.4. Also, what we can also do is we can say GC4, and then it moves there. Oh no. I did something wrong. Where is it? Oh, it's on 8.4 meters. Get it back. GC4. Okay, it moves by 4. GC minus 4. Doesn't like me anymore. Then it's on minus 40. Let's put it back on 4.4. So that was annoying. Now it's out of the camera. We can move the camera back a little bit and tilt it up. Oh no, that's not what I wanted. Rotate X. No, that's not what I wanted. Rotate XX. Okay, let's put it here. And what we can also do is we can take a look at it, how it would look if we just rendered it. And by the way, just a little tip, if we go into preferences, currently there is this max shader compilation set to 0, but most of the CPUs we have more than 1 cores. So I would just put in the number of cores here. I put in 16 because I have 16 cores and 16 hyperthreads. So I can run 32 very slow because it's an old computer, but very, very slow shader compilations. But it's much faster if I hit this button here, and then it shows me what it would be like rendered. So if you hit this button up here, switching to rendered view, then this might freeze for a second, and yeah. What else can we add? Just adding one more thing, 2 more things, 1,000 things. Of course, a torus, we'll just scale it up. Then this sticks out of a torus, and I'm just wondering, what you also can do, if you hit Shift A and then we'll add torus here, then you can use this menu down here to create the number of segments and the radii. Change the radii. For instance, I want to have a torus that has not so much of a big donut-like structure, but want to have a smaller one. Then let's remove this one and take this one and scale it up. And then we can rotate it around Y, and then we can have it rotate around our stuff. Oh, that's very nice. Okay, now it looks interesting. Yeah, now we have a scene, and such a scene needs to be organized. Organizing the scene, here we are. We can use the scene collection. We can hide objects in the scene tree, select objects that are not currently visible, and we can actually name stuff so that we can later on find it. That's very good. So for instance, if we are here in our scene, I'll just give you the full picture. That's the camera, that's our main cube. We can call it cube top. Then we would have cube bottom. We can have our light. We have a sphere, which we might call head or something like that. And yeah, then we'll have the torus, which we might call something like halo. And we can organize stuff. So we can remove this one. I mean, not remove it, but not show it. It hides it in the viewport. It doesn't hide it in rendering. Okay, so what does that mean? Because we actually look at it rendered. So the rendered viewport shading. Up here, we can go back to material, preview, solid state, and wireframe. If you want to reverse wireframe. So what does it mean? We'll look through the camera here. And if I hit, or if I go up here, render image, it will still show our torus. That's the idea. So if I remove it from the rendering too, then it will not show a torus. Hitting F12 actually renders the picture. Okay, so I'll leave it here. And we have everything. I'm a little bit overwhelmed by switching the slides. So creating meshes, of course, we had that already by adding stuff, and we can switch between smooth and flat shading, which would look like here. That's now flat shading, and we can just object shade smooth. Then it's smoothly shaded. So the outline is still with line segments, you can see it. So if I do that, for instance, for something like that, then of course it doesn't look like what we want to have it, especially the shading here. But we fortunately have the shade auto smooth, which actually gives us an angle where we can cut off the smoothing. So this would also be auto smooth, much better. And maybe here too, object, shade, auto smooth. Okay, I had already the views. So up here, there are the views. That's the rendered one. That's the material preview. And that's the viewport shading solid. And that's the wireframe mode. You can also access it with C. And then switch, for instance, to wireframe, C solid, and C material preview. Okay, let's go to rendered because we can. And what we can actually do is we can switch. We now have 3 objects to be seen here. We have a 4th one which we put away, but here we have 3 objects. And what we can do is we can also edit the objects. That's actually pretty cool, editing the objects. So for that we need the modeling mode here, or we hit just tab and then we go into modeling mode in edit mode automatically. Okay, and so let's see the difference between those modes. Here you can actually see the vertices and you can select the single vertices. Then you can move the vertices, yay, and I'll just let them switch back. And of course, scaling does not work for vertex, just grabbing works, but it's the same things, okay? Then we can select the vertices, the edges. There we can grab the edges and move them along, so that actually makes the wave. Whoa! Switch it back. In this case, of course, rotation and scaling works, of course. Why not? And what we can also do is we can switch to selecting the faces. And again, there, rotation, movement, and scaling works. So up here, you can switch in between. Okay, so how to select it? You just click it, but here also the painting approach does work. And now with scale, you can scale the whole edge, the whole face. And what else works? The box select works. Like I want to have those here. Yes, that works. Or just the 2 of them also works. What also works is A, selecting everything. And now you can actually see that while I selected everything, only the box is selected. That's because edit mode only works in the model space. So we have 3 models visible here, 2 boxes and a sphere. And this editing just works in the model space. So if we want to edit those 2 things together, for instance, to join them or something like that, then we need to join the models in object space, in object mode, so in world space, and then we can access them in the edit mode in the model space and, for instance, whatever, do something with them. So what can we do here? We can, for instance, and there the tools make sense again, we can extrude stuff, we can insert faces, we can bevel stuff, we can cut stuff, and we can loop cut stuff. So try the ABC shortcuts. What is A? Oh, it's everything. Yeah, B is box select. And yeah, one thing, if we hit Z and wireframe, then we can actually select the things in the back. That's actually pretty cool with C. Or what we can also do is deselecting everything. We can go here and with box select and select the whole plane down there, which we cannot see. So that's actually pretty nice. What can we do now? For instance, we can use that to scale it a little bit. And then we might have something like shoulders here. And we can then select those here, grab along Y, move them out to 1.33, and then use those two here, box select. Oh no. And grab and move them to grab Y and move them to -133. And then switch back to solid, and we might have something that looks a little bit at least like a very abstract person. What we can also do, we can do ring cuts and loop cuts and knife cuts. So I'll just show you the knife cut first. So you can basically just go with your knife here and cut the faces. And at some point you just and I'll go back to this one. Oh, didn't apply the cuts. I'm not very good at knife cutting because I don't see it too much as a great tool. And I think enter it is, yes. And now we have cut out a few edges and vertices. So we can then, whatever, use, use the, go back to escape. Here we are. Go back to selecting stuff and then just whatever, move it up, down, and so on and so on. Okay, of course, this messes up all your planes, so we'll talk about that later. Messing up the planes is mostly not a good idea, so you should actually triangulate stuff if you don't want to mess up the planes, but triangulate at the last possible moment. That would be good practice. So what I often use are the loop cuts. They are here. No, here, loop cuts. So you can just click here and then do loop cuts, but I like it a lot better to have it done with Ctrl R. Then you see, you can switch between this and this. And you say, I want to cut this one. And then I can put it wherever I want, okay? For instance, here or here. If I hit the right mouse button, it stays in the center. That looks already great. I'll switch, for instance, to wireframe, then do the circle select again, and then move them down a little bit. Something like that. And I can also use Ctrl R and then scroll it up with the wheel and have more of them. That's also very interesting. Moving them up or down wherever I want, or doing something like that. And then I can do, for instance, these two, grab and Y and move them back a little bit. And Y and move them back a little bit. Okay, does look already interesting. What else can I do? I can extrude stuff. So for that, I can actually use the faces. And I want to extrude an arm here. Then let's put an arm here. And put an arm here. And then we already have something like a person. Awesome. I'll switch back to rendered view. And then you can see what I mean. Back to object view. And yeah. So that would be extrusion. You can also extrude individually. That's also very nice with Alt-E. So that's also the downside here. What I cannot do is I cannot undo if I switch between the, oh yes, oh they changed it. That is awesome. I can undo in edit mode. When I switched back from object mode, so switching modes typically clears the head has cleared the undo history. That was very bad. So now I'm selecting both of them. I don't need those actually. Go away. I need this one and this one. Yeah, those two, they are great. And then I hit Alt-E and then extrude along the normals, and I can extrude both at the same time, which actually is very nice to have it extruded the same way. And then what I can also do is I can say E and hit it back. Then I can, then it extrudes but does not move it with the right mouse button. And then I can scale it up, for instance, something like that. I'm just scaling it, which actually moves it a little bit. And now we have something like that. So yeah, as I said, I am not an artist, so please stay with me here. Okay, so that's it for the modeling. I actually have all the slides. You can access them, of course. What's also interesting is subdivision surface. So if you subdivide a surface, so what I want to do is I want to show you how to subdivide a plane and then generate a landscape with moving vertices up and down and proportional editing, and then also showing you with it how it works with randomizing the whole thing. So there are so many functions in Blender, I'm just rushing through them. So you take what you need basically, but the randomize function is very useful for low poly approaches. Let's go back to this one here. What I will do now is I'll just open a new general file, don't save. So we'll start from nothing and remove the main or the cube. We'll just add a plane here. And what I like to do is I want to scale up the plane a little bit, like 20 and 20. So we have something like a ground. We'll look through the camera and we'll see the ground. We can go back a little bit, or actually go down a little bit and then rotate it along Y. No, rotate it along X. Yeah, that's what I wanted. GC going down and GZZ going back. Yeah, that's what I like. We can now look at it in rendered view. It just gives us a plane which is lit from above. So what I want now is I want to subdivide this surface, and that's all done, of course, in edit mode. So here we have the edge thingy, subdivide, and you see that it actually created a subdivision of the whole thing. So edge, again subdivide, edge, again subdivide, edge, and one last time to have a little more of the vertices. Okay, and now I can actually start to create a landscape. For instance, I take this one here and move it up a little bit. That's awesome. But what if I need a bigger landscape? I can use proportional editing, selecting this one and then GZ. And with the mouse wheel, I can change the influence. So I lift up this a lot. Then I lift up this a little bit. I'll go here and make it stickier, something like that. And then I want to change it to something like that and have something that here, GC. And here we are. And maybe have a peak here, inverse square, GZ, and that's it. Where's actually my camera? Oh, it's here. Okay, let's look through the camera. Oh, that looks not so bad actually. So that's pretty cool. We already have a landscape here. We can go back to edit mode and take a look at how it looks like in rendered view. Awesome. So the trick question would be if there is a downside to it. Of course there's a downside to it. It's not triangulated, so most of the normals will be pointing in different directions. That's kind of a problem here, because some of those things might not be in a plane anymore. So what you should actually do is you should triangulate the whole thing. That's here. We have to select everything and then triangulate, of course. So then it looks a little bit better. And now we can actually fool around a little bit more with it. But that's the basic idea. So we have already a little bit of a landscape. And now it actually looks a little bit better with that. What else you can do is you can use random transformations. So I'll just go back to object mode, add another plane here, scale it up a little bit, and then go back to edit mode. Go edit mode. Subdivide, 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 and subdivide. And what I can then do is mesh, transform, randomize, and here you actually have some randomization options. So for instance, we can reduce the amount to half of it, say, the uniformity, something like that. We can change to random seed if we don't like what it looks right now. And yeah, that's basically it. We can create a simple landscape out of that. And of course, we have to triangulate the whole thing, otherwise it will really look weird when rendering it. Okay, so these are a few ways to create a landscape. Definitely should revisit it later, because there is also an add-on to create landscapes. I hope I can still show it this time around. What else? Oh yes, I'll just give you another example, the six-sided cube, to show you how we can use stuff. Let's remove this one here. We need a new cube. Give me a new cube. And we'll work on the cube. So what I wanted to do is to create a six-sided die. And as you all might know, a six-sided die has a 1 on one end and a 6 on the other end. And they are a little bit inset, so we can actually use extrude in the down direction to set the insets and then color them differently with the materials. So that would be the idea. So what I do is I first loop cut the whole thing with 4 loops. Okay, snapping back, doing the same thing here. Oh no, that's, forgot to scroll. 1, 2, 3, 4, yes, and back, and Control R. One, no, forgot again. Control, scroll it. Yes, and back. Okay, so that's the whole idea. I'll go to face select, and in face select I can actually then select a single face, and I'll just show you what I mean. I can extract it or extrude it, go back and then scale it a little bit. Oh wait, that doesn't work out as I wanted. No, that's not what I wanted. Hey, why doesn't it like me? Seems not to like me. Go back. Okay, then let's do it the other way. I'm not sure why it doesn't work for me right now. You have this radius thing is still enabled. Oh, that might be the case, yes. Oh, yes. Thank you very much. Now we are back. Okay, now we are clean. So, thank you, Trokir. That was really awesome. I wouldn't have known it. No, it was the right thing. It was absolutely the right guess. Okay, so if I hit, that's the thing I wanted to show you. If I hit E for extrude and then cancel it with the right mouse button, it extrudes it. So it invents the new extrusion thing, but it does not scale it or move it. So we can actually scale it and then put it in there. And then we can do another extract and move it down here. Okay, so why would we do that? Because that's how we can make stuff happen in here. Okay, that would be the 1. Put in here the 2. Extrude, cancel, scale. And now it doesn't work anymore. So what I actually want is not to have the global thing here, but local. Nope. Oh, it doesn't like me. That's the whole idea of Blender. It always works, but scale, no. Alt scale. Oh, it's just moving it. Okay. I have to go back. Yeah, anyway, let's do it without the whole thing. We select what we want, so it would be here the 2, here it would be the 3, here it would be the 4, here it would be the 5, and here it would be the 6. And the whole thing would be to inside it a little bit. I'll come to that later with I. So that's what it does for us. And then we extrude it. But along the normals, and then we can set it back a little bit, all this at the same pace. Okay, so we'll have it all at the same pace. It doesn't work with the 6s here, but let's not look there. And now we actually would have something like what we actually wanted. So I'll select all the faces and then I add a material. I say that's the dice white and assign it to everything. That's on the right hand side here. And then what I also want to have, I want to have a dice black. And then I would assign this to the areas inside. Okay, shift is the thing. Let's go to C. C is much better for that. E, C. And C. I like it a lot. Big fan, big fan. Typically I make up an error at the very last minute. Okay, dice black, assign it and make it actually black. Black. And then the inside is black, so let's take a look at it. Now we have, it looks like a Minecraft dice. And we can use bevel, just select everything, doing a little bit of bevel here. And that's too much. It's far too much. Much less, something like that. That would be 0 to something. And now it's a little bit rounder and it looks a little bit better. Okay, let's look through the camera here. And maybe we can make it, we have to switch back to edit mode. And switch. Yes. So we switch back to global here and now we have a closer look. Okay, so it does look a little bit like a cube. That's nice. Yeah, there are a few things in there like Alt-E for extruding stuff along the normals and so on, which we'll basically need for the cube. Okay, switching back here. So the inside faces, we already had that. So we insert faces with I, extrude along the normals in the mesh menu. So the crate would be our approach like that. And then we assign a material. We have 2 colors and inner and outer part of the crate. So that's what we're doing now. I already showed you with the dice and I'll just show you with the crate too. Okay, let's remove the dice, add a cube and let's make a crate out of that. So the first thing would be to actually go into edit mode and then make the insets. So everything, we're there. Okay, so we have a little bit of the insets here. So we have a frame of the crate and then another wood that gives us the sides of the crate. Alt E, extrude faces along the normals and go back a little bit. So not much, little bit. Okay, so we already have this great crate. And next thing would be to hit materials here. So many different things, but what we need is the materials. And we'll assign a new material and we would call this create frame and assign it to everything. And then new one, which we call create sides, which we just assign to the sides, of course. Did we get them? Yes. And we assign the sides here. And now we actually have to color them differently to see if we did something wrong or right. Let's see. Hitting F12 gives us a rendered image. Oh, it looks good. It looks good. I mean, it doesn't look good in a sense of an aesthetic way, but it looks good with the assignment. And what we can go now for is the shading part. And that's the important part here. So we have two materials. We would have the crate frame here, and we would have the crate sides here, and we still have the dice black. The crate frame, we can actually go for a dark brown, and the crate sides would be maybe did it automatically assign it to everything? That's bad. I didn't want to have that. A lighter brown, but also brown. Okay, no, it didn't assign it to everything. So that looks good as far as a crate goes. What we can now, of course, do, we can change the whole thing. For instance, what I would basically do is I would add, for instance, a wave texture here. Let's just show the color at some point, and triangle waves. What I like for wood are the saw waves. I like them a lot, but we need them more distorted, something like that here. Yeah, and maybe getting a little bit of detail, but with less scale. Something like that. And that would be not our base color, but what I actually want to do with that, I want to make a little bit of a bump mapping here. So there is this bump thingy where I actually go in and put it on the height. Oh, not the normal, the height. Oh, not the distance, the height. And then remove this one here and feed the normal here. And then the light would basically be reflected in a different direction. And I would remove the distance here, like 2.2, and the strength maybe to 0.5. Let's try 0.5. Hit F12 and we'll have a little bit like wood texture. Okay, doesn't look very good, I know. We should remove the strength maybe, 0.2. F12 looks a little bit better. Maybe we should add up on the roughness. Looks a little bit better. And what we can also do is we can fool around a little bit with roughness based on the bump. So we can actually move that one here too. And then what we would have is that some parts are more reflective than others, depending on if they're higher up or lower down. So that would be the whole idea. But we typically don't want to have this value raw. So what I prefer would be to put it into a color ramp or something like that. Color converter. color ramp. And I would basically put it in between two values. Oh, no, not that one. Put it back here and have one like 166. This one, no. Oh, hello, friend. Like me too much? Yeah, this one to 0.33. So not much of a difference, and I want it to have it here and get out the color to that one. And then it would map the roughness just a little bit between this 0.33 to 0.66 value, and takes the edge off a little bit, the roughness. Okay, so that's this one. And for the other material, we can of course create something which has some other kind of wood. Let's add it here with the base color. Again, I like the soft distortion. Get it down a little bit. And bump mapping to give us a little bit of height here. Put in the normal here. Move the base color here. And remove the strength, of course. And add to the distance. Then we would have something like that. And switch back to the frame here. And then we would have a crate with a texture. Okay, so time to first crate, something like an hour or something like that. So what we also need, we would have to add 3-point lighting for the crate. Let's do that. We go back to layouting here. There is our crate. Oh, it does look good. Object mode, of course. And we can move it up by a meter so it sits on the floor. Then, of course, we add a floor. To scale it up. Have some kind of shadow receiver. For this plane, we can just add a material. Wait, what can we use? Something like very pastel color, ground. And then we need lighting. Okay, so we have a few lights here. That's of course the main light. Let's put it here. Then we add another light, a point light, which we should move somewhere here up front, make it stronger, much stronger, because this one should light up this side, and it should actually create no shadow because we just get the shadow from the other one. Make it a little less, 300, something like that. And then we need a light in the back, again a point light. Grab Shift C, moves it to the back, and then G and C and move it up, maybe here. Again, no shadow. And a big one. So why do we need that? It adds here these small highlights, and those are the interesting part here. Okay, let's see what it looks like. Awesome. I like it. I like it a lot. So you would have a crate. How to render it? Now, rendering an image would be something like this one here, and image save as, and we have our rendered image. If you want to change the size of the image, I'm open to question, that's why I'm switching always back to the questions. If you want to change the size, then of course you can fool around with the resolution, for instance. So what would be the double of, oh no, we can actually go to 200%. That's easy. And that of course takes a little longer, but gives you double the quality in each direction. Let's switch back to 100%. So what else we can do is actually we can change the fill, which is here, set it to transparent, and then it would render the background transparent. Okay, so the background is transparent, which is very, very useful if you want to put it into slides or something like that. Okay, so next would be populating a scene. When Blender comes back, we can just copy stuff over by copying it completely or just referencing the new, so a new instance. The difference would be I have one object, like an apple, and then I make a clear copy of that apple. And the second one would totally look the same. We make a copy of an apple and then change it, then we might have two apples which basically are the same, but they look a little bit different. And we can use the snap function to align stuff. Okay, I'll try to go back here. So that would be our volumetric shadow thingy. Very nice. I'll just make a new general thing. Don't save. Otherwise I'll kill my PC. Okay, let's redo the crate in a way. Okay, so I have a crate. It's not the nicest crate in the world. I just recreated really fast. With Alt D, I can make new instances of the crate and then put them somewhere. Shift C, so at the same level, that would be good. And then snapping, snapping, snapping. Grid sounds nice. Again, Alt D, and then move it up on C, and then grab Shift C and put them on top here. Look at it from the top. G. Oh, disable snapping. G. Move it here a little bit naturally, more natural kind of. Then we have the stacked crates again. Rotate with X, GC. That would be my crates here. And now let's add a room. That was the whole idea. Shift A, we add a cube. We can basically scale it up by 20. So a room of 20 meters. Oh, it's actually really big. 20 meters is really big. Let's do 8 by 8 by 8. That's good. And we have to move it up. 8. Okay, then there's the room, and in the corner of the room the things are standing. For the room we need a material which we would call wall. Maybe do it right. Wall. And we would need another material called floor. We can actually go into edit mode and change the color of the floor to like bluish tint. The walls should have something like a reddish tint maybe. It's good just to have two different things here. Let's look at it from a rendered perspective. Okay, it doesn't look too bad. There are shadows. I like it. So we have already a scene. With the 3 lights we can fool around. Like from edit mode, moving a little bit back. Oh. A little bit forward. Like that, yes. And what we should do here is change the properties of the camera and not properties of the camera instead of changing the whole thing. So we can change the field of view. See, the field of view based on the millimeters focal length. We can have something, does it work? Yeah, 44 sounds good. And we can go back a little bit. Yeah, here we are. Okay, hitting F12. Looks nice. We can add depth of field. Nice. Okay, so we can also We can also add another light here, and that's actually a nice point. We can put a light on the wall. So how to put a light on the wall? I'm a little bit out of ideas what to model. Maybe we'll just add a light box here. Let's look at it from top-down view. I definitely should remove the walls I don't need because I just don't like it. Faces. Wait, remove faces. Yeah, I think that's good. So we can look into it. Yeah, I like it. Go back to object mode, and then we should add something like a light box or something like that. So we start with a cube here, scale it to Y, make it bigger, scale it back again, 0.4, 3, 0.4, okay, then look at it from here, and we'll do the snapping again. Grab this one, move it here, so that it should light up the whole thing. Look at it from here, and move it to the middle of the room. It was actually at the middle of the room, I like it. And then we can add a light. Oh, actually, that would be our light box, so that we actually have it. That would be our room. Those are the crates. Okay, and then we add some light. Let's see. Oh, we have an area light. I like it. The area should have a scale of, what was it, 3, I think? 4? Was it 4? Yes, 4. And then we can actually move it here. Move it up. And that's how you fake a light, basically. Scale X. Let's look at it from the top. Okay, we need to scale it in Y, make it a little bit bigger, and then scale it in X to put it under the whole thing. That looks nice. And then we can tune it up. And let's look through it. Of course, now the camera doesn't show the light. We can go back and rotate it up. And hit F12. And now we would have this crazy light thingy and our crates here. And what else can we do? This should actually show shadows. Where is our light? Area light, that's it. Make shadows, that's nice. Much better. Here, a lot of light. And make it a little bit yellowish, something like that. And this one, yeah, that's good. Okay, so basically that would be one scene. There are 3 self-modeled objects. There are 2 lights, so you should add a third one, of course. And rendering stuff, of course, that's easy, F12. Then you render stuff. What you can also do is you can basically animate it. You can always animate everything that you see here with the points. Animate property. So we can move the camera. So that's the easy one. Let's go back to moving the camera. Zoom in. Zoom out. Kind of. And then the whole thing is we need to activate a keying set, which in this case would be location and rotation. And then we add a keyframe with this plus. Okay, so now we have added the keyframe for the camera. And what we also want, we want to move it in here. GCC, move it in. Maybe a little bit down. And put it on the light. Keying, add another keyframe. Okay, and now we actually have an animation here. We can just play it back. And we can actually animate other properties too. For instance, we would have the area light here, and we can animate this property. What I typically do, I start with something like 25%. Oh wait, maybe it's not the FFmpeg video. No, it is actually the FFmpeg video here. Matroshka hat 264, so that's already good. And then we can render the animation. And what it does, it renders the whole thing with such a small resolution. That's actually good. And at the end of the day, it should end up as a MKV container in your folder, which you gave at the beginning. And as I said, it's 25% of the size, but it's a good approach to start with small. With a small animation, then you can still go up to 4K if you want. Okay, so ideas you can do are put something inside a room. I already showed you. Make a pipe, a kettlebell, microphone mesh, or whatever. You can also create lamps like the one on the wall. You can create ones that are standing somewhere or whatever you want. So everything starts with a 3D primitive. Think of extrusion as a tool. You can think in these terms. That's actually pretty cool. There are several other tutorials that you can use. For instance, low poly tutorials for full workflow. Others are also available. You can go for low poly household appliances, trees, nature thingies, and so on and so on. Check out Kenny's webpage. Kenny has a lot of different assets you can use. And yeah, a student last year did make a video on how animation works in Blender and how to import it to Unity. So if you want to look into that, you can also take a look there. As I said, always use the stuff from Kenny. So there are a lot of assets in there, like 3D assets, and you can just import stuff, like for instance, toy cars, or there's a mini market, roller coasters, watercraft. I typically use the nature kit a lot. Not here. Of course, it doesn't come up. Here it is, the nature kit. There are a lot of trees inside there and whatever you want. So that's a very good start. The materials are kind of weird. So if you import it in Blender, you have to take an extra look at the materials. That might be a good start. Okay, other than that, thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining in. I hope I gave you a lot of new questions. Blender is an awesome tool in that sense that you will find a lot of resources online and can actually make great stuff with a minimum effort of time if you know what you're doing. Don't go into panic mode too early. For many things, you actually have a lot of those small videos that show you how stuff works, like the light flickering. I'll just look it up. I thought I would have remembered, but I didn't. And yeah, have some fun with it and think about what you can do. You'll get a lot of inspiration on YouTube and online sources. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. Bye.